So, I'm going to be honest with you, if you have the Nubia Red Magic 5G that came out a couple of months ago, then you might want to click away from this video. However, if you are anybody else and you are looking for one of the most powerful gaming phones ever created, then this is the video for you. In my hands, right here, I have the brand new Nubia Red Magic 5S, and everything from a internal cooling fan to a 144 Hz display, the fastest and smoothest display on any phone, to physical shoulder triggers on the top left and right of your phone that turn it into a literal controller, to so much more. This phone is absolutely spectacular, whereas competing gaming phones like the ASUS ROG Phone 3 and that new Lenovo Legion phone are over $1,000. This thing is around $600. You're getting something that's half the price of competing gaming phones that has all of the benefits that those ones have. So why does this phone cost less than those other ones? We're going to be talking about that in today's video, and I will be giving a full review on the Nubia Red Magic 5S. I hope you guys do enjoy this video. It's going to take a long time to create. We're going to go over everything from gaming to the camera to so much more. And if you guys do enjoy, then I would greatly appreciate a like rating down below. Comment down below if you have other questions about this phone, and subscribe for more phone reviews if I ever end up getting a new phone in the future. I don't get them very often, so I don't make these reviews often, but whenever I do, people always seem to enjoy them. Anyways, should you get this phone? Let's talk about that. So, to start things off here, I thought I'd show you guys the unboxing experience. I absolutely love the design on the box. It really gets you into that gaming mood, and then, I mean, come on, dude. Look at this phone! It's such a cool looking phone. Nubia makes the coolest looking phones. I mean, seriously, like all other specs aside, you can't deny this is such a neat looking phone. That silver is just absolutely fantastic and stands way out, way better than so many other phones that are currently available in the market today. Underneath the phone, you're going to have a 55-watt quick charging brick with a standard USB-C cord, though that cord has that characteristic Nubia red touch to it. I always like that. And then, of course, you also have some other papers, but you also have a case that actually comes with the phone. It's a soft, clear case that Nubia provides. Nothing special, but it'll get the job done. And if you put it onto your phone, it doesn't really stand out too much. It adds little bumpers on the corners, which will help if this phone falls. And then, as I just said, you're obviously going to get some papers, but hey, that's basically it for that unboxing experience. So, now that the unboxing is out of the way, let's get into this. To start things off, probably one of the most important features of this phone is the 144 Hz AMOLED 6.65-inch display. A massive display. I mean, if we were to compare this with something like the iPhone 11 Pro Max, you can see, I mean, this is a big boy, all right. It almost feels like you have a mini tablet in your hands, but then again, if you're gaming, you kind of want that. You don't want to have this tiny microscopic display like, I mean, you know, the original Razer phone, as I said, look at the size difference. The Razer phone is a lot smaller, and something like that gives you a disadvantage because it's harder to see enemies if you're playing in a game like PUBG when they're very far away. You have up to 12 gigs of RAM and 256 gigabytes of internal storage, and I want to make it blatantly clear that this is not the top-end model. I actually have the lowest-end model, 8 gigabytes of RAM and 128 gigabytes of internal storage. All of the stuff that I'm going to be talking about is going to be based off of my experience with this version. So you can assume that everything that I say is good for this one is going to be even better for the one that has 12 gigs of RAM. And as a side note, I'm doing a little self-plug here. On September 4th, in 2 days, I will be doing a test with hand cam gameplay on PUBG Mobile with this thing. And then on September 6th, I will be doing a test with Call of Duty Mobile. So if you want to see those videos, subscribe and stay tuned for when I test those games out. It has the Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 chipset, fastest Android chipset available with 5G capability. I mean, it only makes sense. Its little brother had 5G capability. This one follows the trends. It has UFS 3.1 storage and LPDDR5 RAM, the fastest RAM available on any smartphone to date. A lot of other phones have that, of course, but you want to make sure you have UFS 3.1 storage because it's faster. And if you have a gaming phone, everything has to be fast, dude. And then since you have a gaming phone, you obviously want it to cool down properly. If you've ever played on a computer, if you've gamed on a computer, you gotta have a proper cooling system. And this thing probably does it better than any other phone, period. Okay, this has the best cooling system on any phone. Starting with that internal fan, like there's a literal built-in fan on this phone. I wanna show you what it sounds like. And then on top of that, it has an extended layer of copper, which just by default lowers down your phone's temperature. It cools it down. A lot of other phones have that when they don't want to go all out and add like a fan or anything. And then it has liquid cooling because, you know, why not have liquid cooling? So, I mean, you have a built-in fan, you have liquid cooling, and you have an extended area of copper. And then on top of that, I didn't get this for whatever reason. I don't know why they didn't send this to me, but you also have this little docking station that further cools it down. I don't exactly know what it does, but as you can see here, it sort of cools it down even further. I guess it somehow works with your phone. I'm not entirely sure. I have no idea. I don't have it, but I would assume that this company knows what they're doing because they were the very first company to actually implement a proper cooling system in a gaming phone, even before the Razer phone, even before the ASUS ROG phone. That's saying a lot. I didn't fully talk about that display, and one other thing that I'd like to mention on the display of this phone is it has a 240 Hertz touch sampling rate. That basically means, well, to talk about what a touch sampling rate is when I touch something on the screen, it will have one of the quickest reaction times of actually performing that task of whatever I pressed out of any phone currently available. I mean, this is easily comparable to like a mouse click on a computer. It's really unbelievably fast, and you're not going to have any delay whatsoever that you might have with more budgets and older phones. They take a long time to actually do the task when you press the button. This one, instant, even faster than something like an iPhone, which is saying a lot. If we actually take a look at the phone itself, you can see here that I actually am a massive fan of how the apps look, how the launcher looks, how everything looks. Again, it looks so unbelievably smooth and quick when you have that 144 Hertz turned on, but honestly, it feels a little bit closer to like an iPhone with the way some of these apps look and how that main home screen looks. I actually am a very big fan. I'm an iPhone user. My main phone of choice that I use day to day is the 11 Pro Max. So having this phone, it's actually a very easy transition over to this one, using this one compared to something like maybe my Razer phone, where if I were to actually show you guys this, it just looks completely different. I mean, this thing is a very, very different looking phone from iOS, but this Nubia phone, it doesn't really have that issue. We got to talk about that proper gaming experience that you will have when you get this phone. There's a little button on the top left of your phone, and when you switch that on, it's going to put your phone into gaming mode. It's going to have that cool little animation, and then you can actually add and remove games at will, as well as doing a whole host of different tasks. You can actually completely eliminate all notifications. So say, for example, you're trying to get a world record in a video game and you can't have any notification whatsoever because that might end up messing you up. Well, you can completely disable everything and completely be within the zone, okay? And then on top of that, it's actually going to optimize every game that you launch in GameSpace 2.1, this gaming mode, by pretty much reducing all of that data usage that all of the other apps are going to use in the background, and then putting all of that into that one game. So say you were in the Messages app, for example, you turned on gaming mode, it's going to pretty much eliminate all of the data that Messages app will be doing in the background. So it'll focus everything on the game and give you the best possible experience. That's why even with the lowest end version of this phone, the one that I have, perfectly fine. It runs better than pretty much any other phone I have ever tested. And then you can change between 144 Hz, 90 Hz, 60 Hz at your leisure, and then you can even do a built-in screen recording whenever you like. You just swipe from the right, turn on the screen recording, and that is going to record your device's internal audio. Most devices do not record internal audio, and this is hugely important if you're making YouTube content. That way, you can actually make videos with no commentary, and it will sound just as good as if you were to have headphones on and you're playing the game. And from this, you can actually turn on and off the fan at your leisure, and you can customize how powerful you want the fan to run. So if you're playing a very intensive game, like Call of Duty Mobile, for example, you'll want to have that fan turned on to the max, because that's a very intensive game. And I think this is pretty cool. I don't really know how useful it's going to be, but you can actually swipe to the right and then turn on small window. And if an app supports this, you can actually launch apps very small, and it's going to overlay on top of your screen that's already running. I did a little bit of testing, and I wanted to show you guys what that little overlay would look like. So if you were to have something like WhatsApp, and you were talking to somebody as you were playing the game, and you didn't want to have to switch between two different apps, you can actually minimize the WhatsApp window, and then open up something like Call of Duty, and then you can have WhatsApp overlaying on top of Call of Duty, and that way you don't actually have to switch between the two different apps. It's just right there, and it's a lot more convenient. I think that's a great addition to this phone. And all of this comes to the culmination of being able to use built-in shoulder triggers that turn your phone into a controller. So when you're playing a game like PUBG Mobile, for example, you can use the top left and the top right of your phone as extra buttons that you can program to wherever you want on the screen. So when you turn on those shoulder triggers, I can put, for example, the left shoulder trigger on the aiming button, and then the right shoulder trigger on the firing button, and then I can use it more of like an Xbox or a PlayStation controller on some of the classic shooting games that exist on those games. These shoulder triggers have a 2 millisecond touch delay. That is unbelievably quick. I mean, that's like quicker than my mouse. And my mouse does not have any delay when I click stuff on my screen, right? And it has a 320 hertz touch sampling rate. So an even better touch sampling rates than the actual display itself. And that's saying a lot. This phone has one of the best speakers I have seen in a phone recently, so that's always very important. It has DTS-X Ultra with 7.1 channel surround sound. A lot of numbers, but that basically means you're getting a loud phone, and this phone will have, it's got nice speakers. I don't know what else to tell you, dude. But hey, did I mention this phone has a headphone jack? Yes. One of the only top-of-the-line phones in this day and age that actually has a headphone jack. It has it. If that's not enough reason to get this phone, I don't know what is. Let's actually talk about the camera, because that's a pretty important thing to me, and I want to show you guys some actual examples of what you're going to get with that. Every picture you're currently seeing in the background is taken on this phone. This phone has a 64 megapixel Sony triple camera setup, and it has an 8 megapixel ultra wide, a 64 megapixel main camera, and then a 2 megapixel macro camera. The macro camera is cool, doesn't really make too much sense for me. All of that sort of combined makes this a pretty average to a little bit above average camera. I want to be blatantly clear, gaming phones probably are not going to have the very best cameras ever out of any phone, because they realize that a lot of big gamers are not really going to be super into photography, so that kind of would be a waste if they added the very best cameras. I would love if they did. I mean, I'm a photographer. I love it. I love having the best camera, and I can't say this is the best camera on any phone, but you know, it gets the job done, and for an average gamer who's not super into photography, hey, it's perfectly fine. You're not going to have any issues with it. It's just not as good as something like the iPhone 11 Pro Max or the Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra or stuff like that. It's just not going to be on the same level of that, but it's good. And here are some video examples. So, this video will give you guys a good indication of sort of what the video looks like. It's a very bright day here in Florida, and yeah, nothing's really overexposed. Nothing's too bright.
and I'm a fan of this video. It's not the absolute best in the entire world, but it'll certainly get the job done. You can't really have too many complaints about this. Thought I'd also test out the front-facing camera. It's so bright I can barely see. This I'm not as much of a fan of. If I actually focus here, you might be able to see. Yeah, it's a little bit overexposed, especially in bright days like this. Obviously, if you're like indoors or something like that, the front-facing camera is not really going to have an issue, but when you're outside, be prepared that this front-facing camera specifically is going to be a little bit overexposed. A little bit shaky, not the best quality in the world. The back camera is certainly better than the front-facing camera.
So yeah, that's one of the big cons of this phone. The camera is, you know, I would say if you could rank it from 0 to 100, it's like at like the 60, maybe something like that. So it's a little bit above average. There are a lot of phones with much worse cameras, but it's not spectacular. That's all I'm saying there. And then another big con with this phone is, despite the material being fantastic, it feels really, really nice. If you don't have a case on this thing, you are screwed, okay? There's glass on the back here, there's glass on the front here, and I learned firsthand what it's like to not have a case on these phones. This phone, my Nubia Red Magic 5G, which is basically made with the same materials, dropped from about 2.5 feet, maybe 2 feet, and I completely shattered the front and the back. That's it. About this distance, right? And it shattered. So you need to have a case on this thing, or else you are playing with fire. Do not take that risk, okay? And then the very last con, I mean, there aren't too many cons with this phone. It's a fantastic phone, and if you're getting it for gaming, it's going to get the job done perfectly, is the battery. I would say the battery is average. It's not fantastic. I personally feel like it's really important to have a very big battery on a gaming phone. I mean, you know, if you compare this with the ASUS ROG Phone 2, because that's the latest ASUS ROG phone that I have, this phone has a better battery than this one, right? You're going to be getting on a pretty consistent basis about 5 to 6 hours if you were to play a video game straight, okay? If you were to use it more regular, everyday, day-to-day stuff, like you go into your messages, maybe some phone calls, you can go through a whole day without having to charge this thing. But if you're gaming solely, then you're going to be getting about 5 hours of gameplay before you have to charge. But then again, as I said, it's got that 55-watt quick charge. You're going to be back up to 100% from 0 in less than an hour. So it's not really that big of a deal. It's just if you're somebody who likes streams, you're probably not going to be able to do those like 12-hour straight streams with this thing, because it will die before you end up doing that. But for the average person who games maybe, you know, I'd say like 2 hours, 3 hours every day, and then, you know, goes to bed or something like that, it's going to be fine, dude. It's not going to die before that point. So I don't know why a lot of people seem to think that this 4,500 milliamp hour battery is like such a big downside. It's really only for a specific type of person who likes to play for like 8 hours at a time. That's the only person where that battery is not going to work too well. And then if you do get their protective case, which I do not have, I don't know why. They should have sent it to me. I could have actually tested this thing out. You can actually put a gaming handle onto that case and then, you know, make it even more of like a controller. You can actually have a physical little joystick and some other physical buttons, and I think that's really cool. It's going to make your gaming experience even more like you would be playing on a console, and that's always a really, really cool thing. I don't have it though, so I can't test it out, so that's unfortunate. And yeah, I don't really have much else I could possibly say about this phone. As I said, pretty much everything is a plus. Everything is a pro. The only cons are the camera not being completely up to par, that battery maybe being a little bit subpar, and then the fact that this thing will drop and break very, very easily, so you need to have a proper case on this phone if you get it. So if you're watching this and you've gotten this far in this video, if you're looking for a gaming phone that's around $600, not something that's like a ridiculous $1,000 price tag, then this might be something you want to consider. From my personal experience, you can get the lower end model and save some money. You don't necessarily need to get the top of the line model of this Red Magic 5S. If you already have the Red Magic 5G, then you don't need to get this phone. They're very similar in their specs, but if you have an older phone, maybe the original Razer phone, or you have the original ASUS ROG phone, then this is something you definitely will want to consider. There are two different versions, as I said. The one that I have, the 8 gigs of RAM, 128 gigabytes of internal storage, which is this cool sonic silver color. And then they also have this version, which is the 12 gigs of RAM and 256 gigabytes of internal storage. This is my 5G, but the same color combination will be on the 5S. So you can assume that the better end version of this phone is going to look like this phone. And something that I also forgot to talk about because I didn't even realize it was on this phone, pretty bad if I'm actually reviewing it, though it's not that important. There is an actual little glowing logo on the back of the phone. It's kind of hard to find. If you actually go into your settings and then you go to more features, you'll see Red Magic symbol lamp. You can turn that on and then you can do a variety of different effects. I would assume more are going to be added in the future. And then you can have this cool little glowing logo on your phone. Just like with the Red Magic 5G, this one will have it as well, so that's always fantastic. And with all of this being said, I know it was a pretty long video. I hope you guys did stay until the end. So for all of the people watching, if you're looking for a gaming phone, this is the phone that you should be considering. You should not be spending over $1,000 for other phones just because they might carry the name ASUS or Lenovo. You just shouldn't do it, okay? This one does everything that you need in a gaming phone. Even if you were to be gaming for Twitch, for YouTube, for other stuff like that, it gets the job done, and it gets the job done very, very well. The only people that I would not recommend this phone to are people that don't game and people that use the Red Magic 5G. If you have the Red Magic 5G, you shouldn't get the Red Magic 5S. But for everybody else, this should definitely be under your radar. All the links to this phone will be down below in the description if you want to go check it out. And hey, that's it. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy and subscribe for more videos like this coming out soon. Thank you so much, and I'll see you all later.